Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Writing a Game. Again, it's been a little while. I'm going to have to remind myself where we're up to. So I think last time around we'd added the ability to load in multiple sprite sheets and started thinking about how we were going to make the pieces look. We've got some fairly heinous graphics put in now. So before, all of our squares were just flat colours, and now we can load in textures. So each of these little squares is a texture. That just kind of is what it is. So you get the idea. So that's pretty nice. What have I said in here? I need to update piece. Yeah. So currently, everywhere that we represent a cell, whether it's in a piece or in the grid, is just a Boolean on or off. And really, we want to change that to make it possible to point them at different like cell textures in our sprite sheet. That's going to take a bit of doing. I want to say as well, another thing that occurred to me, probably want to include rotation point. Right, so can't remember if our pieces actually show this at all. Maybe the 3x3 square does. There you go. So actually things are deliberately rotating about strange points to allow these things to kind of jump. There's nothing to tell you that at this point, right? So like this one's rotating about this top left by the looks of it. So I guess the thing to do is to add a bit more feedback to the user so they can tell what's going on. Probably just like it means a dot on the point that it's going to rotate around. But that's small, I think. Oh, sorry. Oh. Right. So, what is there to do? One thing I think worth doing. So, in our assets, we have our sprite sheet PNG. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it makes sense to pull those, the values used to refer to those out into constants, because I think it's going to be in here. Something like draw entity. So it'll be in draw cell, draw sprite. There we go, we get the texture data there. From filled texture data, empty texture data, right? It's these bits. So data empty for color. Yeah, because that's all attached to that. Okay. I think what do we want to do with that? Just make a constants.odin. Sprites.odin, maybe. Right, so we've got another package. And all it's going to have in it is a bunch of constants. So, can I make a thing over here? Can we go grab that assets? GPG. Now, what do I do for the fonts? I just have like a font.odin. Oops. Yeah, I thought so. The fonts, we've done something a bit cleverer because it's ordered. You can kind of just reason about what you're going to get. So based on the numerical value of the letter you've asked for, we can work out the coordinates. That isn't so true in this case. I guess we could do that for if we do them by number instead of like naming the colours. Yeah, I don't hate that actually. Let's do that, I think. So grab you. Have to do something similar, but it's not going to be ASCII font. Cell sprite, I guess. Take a number. Turn a texture data. Cool. In here, assert that n greater than 0 and n. To count them from 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is less than 8. You are referring actual sprite in the sheet. JavaScript habits. So if we've done that though, then I think we should probably be able to just do this. Go in here, texture index is equal to what? Find next to that one. Yes, sprite texture index. Base and dim. So I think base is a position we'll have to think about, and dim is a dim, or is it a grid dim? I think it's just a dim. Go dim. Width 32, height 32. And this was the thing we got wrong last time. So we're referring to this bottom left corner as our base. That x will depend on n and y will be 32. X will be n times 32. No? I know. Assign a value of type int to f32. Past f32 times 32. There you go. That should work for us. We can check that's working for us. We head back to drawable. And we'll say in here, get cell sprite texture data 0. And we can say in nya, get cell sprite texture to 1. That should look the same as what we saw before. Check you're referring to an actual sprite in the sheet. Sounds like we've messed up our search. And is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0. Good asserting that. There we go. So that looks the same. And if we change those numbers, I guess one thing to say, if we make it 8, we expect to see it blow up that same way, like so. It would be nicer to make that happen at compile time, wouldn't it? Or at the assert, at least. Sure there's a way to do that, but I don't want to get bog down in it. Right, let's swap the colours. So let's make that teal and that orange. There you go. Better already. Cool. Isn't that nice? So that's already an improvement. Contract files, I do want. I modified the README, I do want. Okay, let me just say sprite sheet helper. Okay, what I want to do now then. We didn't check that the top end of this actually works, so let's just sure. There we go. Cool. What an excellent time. So, if nothing else, we've made some progress. What did that take us? We're 10 minutes in. Wouldn't take that long. Sorry, I'm sniffing horribly. Just had one of those colds that I just can't seem to shake. Trying to sniff further away from the mic. But apologies, that must be horrible to listen to. What are we doing now then? We want to change how our pieces are represented. Now, somewhere I've said that means we should start with piece. Means that this is no longer what we would like to be using. We would like cell. I'm trying to have like filled Boolean texture. Just give it a number. You can just give it a number, and then we can designate which number is empty. Don't hate that. Not like 0 for empty. Greater than 0. Filled in different colours. I don't hate that idea at all. Okay, let's go with that. So we can very quickly come down here and grab all our forces. How many of these would there be? 1, 2. Like that. And we can make those all zeros. Is it even worth having a cell then? Alright, let's just try making these ints. Make ones switch back stuff. Okay, that's piece 2. Down here, we want to do piece 1 the same. They're all zeros, and we'll make those all piece part 2. I might make them ones. make these ones 2s just because the use me otherwise. Similarly, all these falses can be 0. All of these can be 3. Right. Yeah, I think we're just going to not have a cell. I think we should do it with ints. And that should do us, I think. I think we can now just start compiling and fixing everything that broke. And I guess the point where we freeze our grid, like literally everything that interacts with our pieces is now going to break, isn't it? Alright. So, grid entity has all of this stuff. It's going to take in a filled grid, which now has integers in it. It's going to pass through to here. If iterating through, val is 0, is our new condition for being empty. Grid pos equals that. Data.cells. Because value is no longer the same everywhere. Right, on to the next one. What are you, sir? Draw grid. Draw grid cells takes data cells, which is not the right type. So we come into here. Break something in here. For filled and index, get the positions. I rename filled to value. Okay, so now instead of doing this, what do we want to do? Get rid of the debug color. Not even using it. Filled texture, empty texture. I think we can just change to be cell texture. Say cell texture is equal to get cell. In fact, we can just do it directly, can't we? Get cell sprite texture data the value. That should work, I think. This one. What is it? Game populate entities. We have game state. Game available space. Grid width over height. Grid available space. Push the grid. Where is grid defined though? Back in game state. So we need to do that. Get clockwise rotated filled arrays. What are you, sir? Updated piece.filled is equal to what is this guff? You, sir, are an int. That assumption, I think, is still true, right? Because we've set int 0 equal to empty. For j in that, right col equals j. For I in that, val is that, and does the output. Cool. And then this will need to have the same change made, right? Sorry, jump to where it's being used. In Nya. Cool. Check you don't overlap existing pieces. If not val, if val 0, if it's empty, do the thing. So val. Something like that, I think. Sorry. Oopsie daisy. All over the place. If val is equal to 0. I think I've done that wrong on that last one, haven't I? That's not if it's equal to val. If it's not equal to 0. Okay, what was the last one of those I did? Check you don't overlap existing pieces. If it is not equal to 0. Right, because this doesn't care if it's the same piece, it cares that it's not a piece. So have to be a little bit careful. Deactivate piece is going to care what type of piece you are. We're no longer setting that grid value to true. We're now setting it to val. What are we doing in here? Clear filled lines. For row index, for col index, game state. Clear a bunch of lines. If not filled, if filled is 0. Just go val, because we've been using that elsewhere. Oh. There we go. Isn't that excellent? Okay, I'm chuffed with that. It's starting to look like a thing. I honestly thought that would be more of a pain than it was. So that's nice. We should probably test that slightly harder, just to check the collision detection. But some of the collision detection between pieces is clearly working. Let me just commit what we got to. So switch pieces from bool int to support different texturing. All right, let's just double check that our. So we've not done any rotating. Rotating is working. Rotating near an edge is working. Rotating near pieces working. Cool. Excellent. Let's go. Rid of all that. Go update our README. All right, we next want to include our rotation point. So, do with that. Yes, it's going to be when we draw the grid. Where do we draw the grid? It'll be drawable. We have draw entity, entity in here, draw grid in there. Currently, the grid only has cells. Can I look for where grid entity is? It's a filled grid, has active piece, has active piece position. Piece will have its rotation position on it, won't it? Yeah. Right, I think we have cells and we'll have a rotation center as a grid pos. I got grid pos. Put it at 0, 0 if we don't actually do anything with it. So where I've just jumped to. Grid entity. What we're doing? Oh. Calling grid entity. Oh no, okay, so these things live on the stack, don't they? They're not just slices into arbitrary memory. Why that's fine. Alright, we have the active piece. Okay, we're gonna need to know if we have an active piece as well, aren't we? It is the state for that kind of like one tick where the piece is stuck. Well, there is no active piece, and in that case, there is no rotation center, and we shouldn't be drawing anything. We can't tell that with a sentinel value, at least not neatly, because any value that's in the grid could be a valid value. Grid entity, if it has active piece. Rot center is what? Grid entity, an active piece position. On earth is this? Grid pos equals grid pos active piece position dot x and y. Okay, so that's for each individual bit. For 0, 0, it'd just be grid pos. Active piece position dot x plus active piece. Like that, won't it? Y equals active piece. Jesus Christ. Piece position dot y plus active piece rot center dot y. We do that. And that gets us an entity with some numbers on it. So that gets passed through into there. We would then like to go and see in drawable, where we say draw grid. Draw grid cells. I think we want to say on here then, if data.hasActivePiece, draw grid rot center. Work out what that looks like. Screen pause, screen dim. Imagine probably needs these same things. Doesn't care about grid dim, I don't think. Oh, maybe it does care about grid dim. Oh, does it care about grid dim? Yeah, because it needs to know how far across and how far up it needs to go, doesn't it? So grid dim. Doesn't care about cells. Something like that. Entity pos, entity dim, grid dim, grid. Oops, what button did I press? Grid width, grid height. What are we doing here then? Draw grid rot center, screen pause, screen dim, grid dim. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. What's going on? Just use the empty color for now. It'll look the same as the background, but kind of out of alignment. Okay, rot center dim. How big do I want to make it? So if a 1/10 of a cell, I guess. Want that as well. Bit of naughty copy pasting. Then rot center dim. Something like that. And height can be cell dim height over 10. See what that looks like. My rot center pos. Give it calculating now. So x is equal to, it'll be screen pos dot x. I don't think this cares about screen dim. Let me take that out. It doesn't care how big the whole grid is, does it? So if it has an active piece, draw the thing. X is equal to screen pos dot x. plus. Oh, pass through entity dot something. Sorry, data dot rot center. You are actually a grid pos. I think you actually are a grid pos. Like that. Passed to float rot center dot x times celdim dot width minus rot center dim width over 2. Does care about screen dim? Okay. Screen dim, dim. Needs to know how big the whole grid's going to be. So does that sound right? So screenpos.x gets where the bottom of the grid is. We then say rotcenter.x times celldim.w to move us across the correct number of cells. And then we shift back half the width of the rot center so it's centered on that point. I think we do the same here. Rot center dim h over 2. Files. Not doing anything with it yet though, so we won't see anything. At the point we've got a center pos and a center dim. Do we have everything we need to call this? We've got texture data. We've got pos rot center pos. Got rot center dim. We've not got a Z yet. Make it 1 for now. Not doing debugging, so we can do that. Oh, hey. And we can see actually that behaving as expected because our rot center doesn't move unless we try to rotate in a place that can't, basically. I don't know if that's going to show up on YouTube because it's very small. One thing to say, I've not done any of these where it's disjoint from... there we go. So that is disjoint. Okay. We're going to have to do some bounds checking, but fun. Cool. Let's get rid of that then. We're currently, if the rotation center is not inside of the... what's it called? The grid, then it blows up. How do we want to handle that? We could do it by checking if the rot center pos. Am I using grid dim anyway yet? Seem to be, do I? This might be where I use it though. So if I say if rot center pos, sorry, rot center x is greater than grid dim width, it can be equal to it because that would just be that it's right on the edge, I think. Or rot I might just do them separate. So if rotcenter.x is greater than that, early return. Can't do it without the curlies. If rotcenter.x is less than 0, we early return. rotcenter.y greater than dim height. Early return, and if rot y is less than 0, we early return. That should limit it to only drawing on the grid. Okay. I'll happily draw up to the edge, happily draw up to the edge. Oh, okay, hang on. Right. Vanishes. Okay, hang on. Let's do another one, not spam so many pieces. What are you? So all the way over, draws up to the edge and then goes away. Goes all the way up to the edge and then doesn't crash or anything. Then here, if we drop down, all the way up to the edge and then draw anything. Cool. I do think it's a little bit hard to see. We'll eventually give it its own texture probably, but let me just go have a look here. What's yellow? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's just pull that in there. That's slightly easier to see. I think so. Marginally. Make it a little bit bigger. The other option, right? Rot center scale. We double the size. Okay, well that's easier to see. Possibly ugly, but okay. We live with that. So, do we need to include that rotation center in the piece preview? I don't think so. Right, the piece preview I want you to be able to just kind of glance over and see. It's likely to end up significantly smaller than it currently is as well, right? Mm. Mm. Alright, I'm going to err on the side of no then. Cool. Happy with that. Let me just reformat all of that. And maybe we can commit. Some of it will just be formatting, won't it? That's annoying. So that was draw rotation center. Pieces on grid for piece on grid. That means our readme can do with updating. So let's come back in here. Let's go grab the readme. Cool. And then, I'm sure there's stuff to do, but I'm kind of drawing a blank. Update readme. You push that all up. I've got work today. I don't want to pick anything up that's going to take more than like. I've got half an hour before I need to go be dad, and then I've got work. I've got any other half-hour jobs. Again, I keep putting off doing this tidying because I don't know, it just sounds boring. I haven't felt really like burned by anything yet, so I'm not feeling like inclined to spend the time. Maybe that's an error. Maybe eventually the whole thing will be such a mess. By the time I actually decide to do some tidying, it'll all just be impossible to reason about, but that's a risk we live with. I guess the next thing to do would be piece editor. How on earth do we do a piece editor? So I guess in that direction, we could very quickly add a button to the main menu. How would I do that then? Do I have anything anywhere that says the word button? I do. Beautiful. For drawing buttons, for making buttons, I would like to know, where is button entity being called? Oh, the default, there we go. Beautiful. Start game on click, exit on click. Down here, and can I just say, edit. I don't know, on click. I won't worry too much about what the UX is going to look like. Just that we need a thing. I need to be able to modify the game. Means we're going to have a new state in here. That we can send you to. Edit. Game.screen is equal to that. Game.state. Initial game state. Find then. Just say edit state. Be a struct. There's nothing in it for now. Initial. Edit state. Generate edit state or edit. It is. What was that? It's just clearing entities. Why is it doing that? Assume there's another one for generate game entities. No, it doesn't look it. You called anywhere? Didn't you? We compile. Switching on game screen. Populate entities. Game.screen. Case game, case main menu. Case edit. I don't know what to put here then. Just nothing for now. problem. Expected this got that. Annoying, isn't it? How do I manage that? Grid removed row count. Is closed. I deleted something I shouldn't have. That one lines up, that all lines up. Gonna have to be where that edit is, isn't it? Case edit, because it's in a comment now. What a rookie move. Right, and then is it just these other switches? Yeah. Game handle event. I think this is what I was saying, that this whole chunk in here is a bit messy. Case dot. Ooh. I'm in the wrong bit. Case dot edit. I can handle nothing for now. Don't make the same mistake again, because we are learning. And this one, game update. Case edit. Probably just does nothing ever. Just sits. Cool. Game is not broken. Right. Where does that put us? I don't know. Main menu needs to draw differently now. Should we do that? I don't know where that would be actually. Game screen and game Odin. All that. I thought somewhere it's calling a bunch of these. Game. Right. So if the game's currently a main menu, start string, start button dim, exit button pause, start button pause. I just keep doing the same thing. Can we just say button dim? Make them all the same. Like that. Start string, surface dim, extend to dim, button dim, start button pause, exit string, exit button pause, edit string, edit button pause. Y start button pause Y. -2.5 of dim. Push our new button entity with edit button pause button dim. Edit string as a string of bytes. Is hovered. Edit button pause and button dim. And edit on click. Which I might just make print for now. Format. Print line. Okay. We don't quite want the spacing the same as that. -3 maybe? And then start button pause. Maybe start it 2/3 of the way up. Oh no, sorry. X does want to be in the middle. 2 times that over 3 maybe? There you go. Cool. Well, that's fun. I do think we are going to have a bit of a think about how we do our UI building, because currently it's very manual. I don't think it's hard to understand though, but that might just be because of what we're doing so simple so far. A grid editing thing for making pieces is going to have a lot of buttons. Maybe this doesn't scale, but probably for another day. Like I said, I've not got endless time today. So I think that was a productive little hour. We've done a few bits and pieces. I think we've even left ourselves a nice bit to build off next time. Am I even using this thing anywhere? Check that doesn't break anything. Shouldn't do. The edit screen is going to end up with a load of state on it, isn't it? Cool. Well, I think that was a productive morning. I will catch you on the next one. Hope you've enjoyed yourselves. See you later.